2 o'clock, we will have a ribbon cutting at the Helplex expansion. So if you're wanting to come take a look at things, we're not doing tours at that time, but then also to add one more thing on the Saturday, from 9 to 12, also in the Helplex, where it's going to be a car show. There's going to be a number of things, but from 9 to 12, we will be touring people through the new facility, which will open up a week from then. And so just a reminder that starting at midnight from July 27th going to 28th, the Porter Hospital closes. We will not be seeing any more emergency department patients. So basically we'll have some administrative things kind of going over there. There will be an urgent care that will open up Monday morning, July 29th. It'll be open 12 hours a day from 7 to 7, 7 days a week. But just letting you all know that is no longer a hospital as of July 28th. Okay. And anybody who has any questions, just get hold of me.
One last announcement, I did put a few bumper stickers over on the table if you want any, and if you have, Stephen Crandall also has.
So Rotary Road Rally's coming up. We've got these signs. We've got the metal stands over here. Take one, put them in your yard, put them in your in front of your office, especially if you're on a very high traffic area. We'd love to promote the road rally, and I don't want to take these with me, so grab them on your way out. Thank you.
Okay, with no further ado, I'll have Michael Story come up here and we'll have our first new member of the year. I'd ask the sponsor, but I'm a sponsor, so. Not really. Okay. On behalf of the members of the Norman Rotary Club, I am delighted to extend a warm welcome to our newest member, Michael Story. Joining Rotary is not just about becoming a member of our club, it's about becoming a part of the global community dedicated to making a positive difference in the world. As a Rotary Club, we uphold the values of service, integrity, diversity, and leadership. We are united in our commitment to improving lives locally and globally through our various service projects and initiatives. Michael, we are excited to have you join us on this journey of service and fellowship. Your unique skills, experiences, and perspectives will enrich our club and continue our collective efforts to create lasting change. As you embark on your Rotary journey, you will have the opportunity to connect with fellow members, participate in meaningful projects, and engage in activities that will align with your passions and interests. We encourage you to take full advantage of all that Rotary has to offer and share your ideas and aspirations with us. Once again, Michael, welcome to Norman Rotary Club. We are thrilled to have you as part of our Rotary family, and we look forward to working together with you to make a positive impact in our community and beyond. Everyone, please extend a warm welcome to Michael. Busy meeting. We're going to get to our speaker in just a few minutes, but if I could please have Bill come up for a few moments.
Thank you. Madam President, this is actually our second all-air spell to give out. You missed one last week that Joe Foote gave, so you're really moving along fast here. And you know, the speaker from OEC, I get my electricity at my house from OEC, and so it made me think about what the Rotary Foundation does with programs like Power. And I've been to Haiti a few times. You could survive a trip there. Now you would be kidnapped and killed. But we went to this island, Laganav, off the coast, and at night it is dark. There is no electricity at all, zero. All you can see is the stars and the moon. Then one year I showed up, and the Rotary, through the Rotary Foundation, they had actually put some solar-powered lights around. It was really nice. And even in the United States, that's going on. There's places without power. And I read in the magazine, in the Foundation magazine, in New Mexico, the Gallup Club helped a Navajo area get electricity that they Foundation is doing things like that, so I was trying to figure out what area of focus that would be. And it would probably be community and economic development. That's one of the E's in most OEC donuts every day. I can even do my own mnemonic, I'm sorry. Okay, so I want to present Paul Harris Fellow. And this is a multiple Paul Harris Fellow, and that's really what keeps the Rotary Foundation going. And this one goes to past president Stephen Moore, right there. It is a +5. He's really moving up. And so the Rotary Foundation obviously thanks you, and people in the world thank you for what you're doing. I appreciate it.
Congratulations. Please remember that our meetings are recorded now. I'll make sure speakers know this. And you can find them on YouTube, channel Norman Rotary Club. So if I can get Kyle Caldwell up here real quick to introduce our guest speaker. Party agreements. Thank you.
Thank you very much for mentioning that it's being recorded. I'm not nervous at all now. So I'm here to introduce Patrick Grace, the CEO of OEC, Oklahoma Electric Cooperative. Known him since about 2008, 2009 when he went through leadership in Norman, but he started at OEC when he graduated college in 2000. He's been CEO there for about 8.5 years, worked his way up, has done some great things on the electric side, and then 2017 thought, at some point in the future, Kyle Caldwell's going to need a job, so I'm going to start OEC Fiber. And I appreciate him doing that. It's done great things for me and a lot of people, but I'm going to let him talk to you about the electric side of things. Please welcome Patrick Grace.
Thank you, Kyle. Kyle's a smart one. He introduces me, brings his boss. Give him a nice big here. Over you there, Jamie. So, it's good to be back. I was a member of this Rotary for many years, a lot of familiar faces. Really, really fun to be back. Brought back memories, get the red badge, and I remember coming up and getting the blue badge. It was a big day. I also remember a lot of really great speakers. So a little bit of pressure here because I don't know that in my head I was good as some of the speakers that I saw, but I always did appreciate the speakers that ended on time. And so I can guarantee I'm going to do that. So I'm going to go through kind of somewhat of a pertinent topic right now, what's going on in Houston with power outages, and of course Oklahoma, you can't get away from natural disasters too much. Just what happens to the local and national power grid due to weather. I gave somewhat similar to this speech at the Weather Committee at Norman Chambers, so if you're at that, it's basically the same videos, same jokes, just laughing it'd be great. So, but first I'm going to kind of talk about what is OEC. I don't know that everyone truly understands what OEC and why there's multiple electric utilities in Norman, and then I'll kind of talk about what type of weather threats there are, both physical, which you saw down in Houston, which is like hurricanes and stuff, and also loading type of threats that you don't see, but it really stresses the electrical system overloading of what we have, and then maybe some takeaways so you can know when to be worried with the weather and when not to be. So, to start with OEC, this is a picture of OEC's headquarters on 24th and Main Street, and you can see this right here, this Target right here, that is now Hobby Lobby. And so you can see when we built our headquarters, that area of Norman is rural. Up here is I-35 and Robinson, all farming here. And so back in the 1930s, the rural communities, rural farms and ranches did not have electricity. And so much like a lot of stuff that Rotary does, we're going into these undeveloped countries. Our rural communities did not have the benefits of electrification at that time. And so the farming communities got together and said, we do these farm cooperatives, we come together with a grain bin or a grain silo. We start our own companies and just take care of that. Why don't we do that with electricity? So that's where rural electric cooperatives were formed. And so there's 30 rural electric cooperatives in the state. We serve the outskirts. OEC, when we were founded, served the outskirts of Norman and kind of Lane County. Back when none of this was picture. Of course, we have the benefit of Google Earth now. We didn't have to send up a airplane to take a picture this time, like back in the 1970s. But you can see Hobby Lobby here and how it's all developed. So as Norman annexed it out, OG&E, which served Norman with the voter-approved franchise, which I'm sure we can all talk about if anybody's truly still interested in that. They kind of came out into the rural areas, and the legislators decided that it really wasn't fair to kick us out. So there was 2 electric companies in all these areas that were not city limits, basically back in the 30s and 40s. And so that's why you'll see OEC. You'll have some areas, some housing additions that have OEC next or neighbors. But basically, whatever is rural back in the 1970s is basically where OEC mainly serves. And then when we launched OEC Fiber, we took care of the OEC members and kind of built off of that. And that's why areas like this part of town does not have OEC Electric or OEC Fiber, just because this has historically always been someplace we haven't had kind of facilities. So that's who we are, and why we're here and why it can be a little confusing. So for the topic, there's, for weather, there's basically 2 types of impacts that I mentioned before. One was just the physical impacts, and one was the electrical loading impacts. I'll kind of unpack each of those. But first, let's talk a little bit of vocabulary and what the power grid is. You can see here, you turn on a light switch here in this building, you will have power coming from the power plant. This is a nuclear power plant, probably not a nuclear power plant, there's not one in Oklahoma. But through the big high voltage power lines, into these lines, which is where OEC is right here. A lot of those are underground, which I know a lot of people are curious about, all the way to the house. So when we start talking about the power grid, we're talking more about this, where it's all the power plants and the big high voltage power lines. And then if you look out the window here, you can see this is what we call the distribution system, which is just the stuff that actually goes from the streets and alleys in the city to your home. So one thing that makes the job very difficult is the kind of assumed characteristics of a power grid. It basically has to be functioning 100% of the time. As you go to third world countries, that is not the case. It'll go off all night, go off intermittently, but in the United States, it is expected that we run from a power plant that is 200 miles away all the way to this light switch without any interruption, or have it up 99.999% of the time, which we do. However, it's a pretty tall task and expensive task. But if you don't do that, as you saw down you've seen down in Texas now, there's dramatic loss of life, loss of productivity, and it's really our mission, and we accept it, even though it's an impossible one to stay up all the time, especially with winter weather. You add to that it cannot functionally be stored. If it, like, same thing happens with gasoline, you put gasoline in the tank, you need it, you go get it, and it works fine. But electricity really can't be stored. Batteries will store electricity for a little while, not really scalable for large scale applications. And so if anybody wants the next $1 billion idea, if you can functionally store electricity, there's a lot of wild ideas, that would be a game changer, because if you could generate it when you wanted to and then use it at a different time, that would be great. But right now, the electricity that's powering these lights is being generated at the same time from that generating plant to the speed of light. That light bulb. And then, of course, there's the idea that it's a basic function of life and civilization, and so we try to keep it as affordable as possible. You really will get into this trade-off when it comes to when you want to change the type of generation from maybe a fossil fuel generation to a renewable green energy transition. There's a cost to be paid for that, so how much are people willing to pay for that? But it's also our job to try to keep it on all the time, but at a low cost, so everybody can afford it. Okay, that sets the stage. Physical impacts. The first one, just basic wind. Wind can blow over power lines. And sometimes not even when it would be obvious, like in a tornado. side is, wind can also create some conditions right here, we call those galloping conductors. And so, if the wind gets blowing right at the right angle, the right temperature, those waves start forming, and those will not stop unless the wind stops or something breaks. So if you're driving down the road and you see a galloping conductor, let us know, because that's something that we will go out and try to interrupt, because it's basically just a wave propagation that once it gets kind of in that frequency, there's any physics majors in here, it'll just get into a resonance and won't stop. There we go. So one's pretty obvious. The other one's lightning. I think everyone understands lightning. What you may not know is that Oklahoma is actually in the top 5 states for lightning. You see the red. The redder you get here, the more there is lightning. Obviously, Florida takes the brunt of it. Just lightning all the time, and then down in the Louisiana coast. But Oklahoma has a lot of lightning. And I think it just goes back to the whole idea that the National Weather Center is centered in Norman, Oklahoma. So you're gonna have an idea that we get a lot of weather. And so lightning will strike the electric lines. There's a lot of infrastructure put in place, lightning arresters that will take that lightning and try to dissipate it so it doesn't blow things up or knock things off. But you're gonna have lightning outages. And so when you see lightning storms, you'll see the lines blink. If it blinks, that means that it dissipated the lightning and came back, which is great, even though no one really likes blinks. Probably some of the most upset people I talk to because they like blink. Light blinking in a storm is not that big a deal. Light blinking on a day like today, most people don't have any tolerance for it, and I agree with them. So, and then I've talked about Houston a few times. Hurricanes are something we don't deal with, but they don't deal with ice storms, at least not typically. So ice on the lines are a tremendous challenge, probably our biggest challenge that we see. So when you hear the word freezing rain, when the ice happens, that's what can happen on these. And so that will overload the power lines. It will, especially if you blow some wind on the sideway, transverse loading of it, if it blows against the side of it, they'll just snap. And so that's bad because unlike a tornado will go through, even the big ones, they'll go through half a mile wide through and destroy things. Ice storms can happen over a whole county. And when you have all the poles fall down on that's just that's when you get into the 7-day, 10-day ice storm outages, which makes everybody want to run and go buy a generator. Although my wife won't let me buy a generator. She thinks it's a bad sign. She thinks we'll never lose power because of who I work for. But I sure there's scenarios I can't fix. And then there's tornadoes. Pretty obvious one. So this is a Reed Timmer video of a tornado that came through OEC. Those are OEC power lines right now. These happened 2 years ago. Has anybody seen this? The craziness of Reed Timmer. I'll let it play for a little bit. But he goes, it's right into it. damage something, that either the pole goes down, and it's mainly those, you see these little gray transformers, they'll get overloaded and we'll have to go out and pick them back up. So pretty obvious tornadoes cause damage to power lines. So the other thing, two things, probably may not be obvious, is when you have extreme heat or extreme cold. Oklahoma, we have some pretty good heat. This is a day, maybe a day like today, when the heat indexes are in above hundreds. Typically, the power grid in this part of the country has peaked in the summertime. Summertime's been the worst. And so heat is really the enemy of any power grid. When you overload a conductor, it's because it has too much heat. And so heat's a problem, not usually that big a deal because we've known about it, we've been dealing with heat my whole career. So there's a couple other things that can come up. If there are droughts, there's wildfires, which can be caused by power lines. I know OEC and probably OG&E gets a bad rap for trimming trees, but trees get in the power lines and it sparks out and cause wildfires, and we've seen some of that in western Oklahoma. That's a big deal. It can cause a lot of damage. Low lake levels, we have hydroelectricity, just 6%, but it's still enough that if you don't have it, it can cause problems. And then the summer AC load is really what you're trying to manage. The winter is really where it kind of gets interesting. So we typically don't see super cold winters in Oklahoma or in Texas. So this graph right here, this graphic is Winter Storm Uri, February 2021, when the temperatures dropped below 0 degrees for almost the entire country, from El Paso to Canada. This, I think they call it a polar vortex, caused rolling blackouts because there was not enough power available both in Oklahoma and a lot in Texas. Texas had it bad. They had almost 5 million in damages, hundreds of people died. And why is cold so bad? Is because most natural gas is used mostly to generate power in our region. And so when it gets super cold, you have a double whammy. Residential people want their heaters on, use natural gas, which is what gets natural gas first, which I think is the way it should be. But also, if it gets super cold, natural gas can't get out of the ground because the wellheads freeze. I don't know if there's any oil and gas people in the crowd, but during Winter Storm Uri, the price of natural gas got so high that the gas companies would send people out to blow a torch on the wellhead to try to thaw it off. I would not blow a torch on a natural gas wellhead. That would take a lot. I'm sure they had to pay a lot of money to someone to do that.
I would.
So then power generation can't get gas. You also have in the wintertime, the peak is before sunrise and after, before sunrise and after sunset, so you have a double peak. So there's no solar online. Wind is actually not that present. Wind starts blowing when the sun comes out. And when you have something like this, normally your neighbors can help. This is kind of our region right here called the Southwest Power Pool. Normally you can get help from the surrounding regions because they're usually not in a bad spot, but in this case, they were. Everyone was. So kind of a perfect storm. This is the graph of the electric load at that time. And with that, you see the different colors of the different types of generation. So you start here with wind and solar, the gas is here, coal kind of played a big part here, and then this purple is the imports. But what's really hard to see on the graph is you'll see these little tiny white spots up here that show a gap in generation to meet the demand, and those are rolling blackouts. So if you take the scale of that, all that generation comes on, and that much means that, how many people here are on OEC electric? Just one? Okay. How many, OG&E had to, how many people were out February 2021 in a rolling blackout? Yeah. That's how close it came on the margins when you had a really, really cold electrical load. Luckily, we learned a lot from that. It's the first time that in history of the Southwest Power Grid has ever been rolling blackouts. Texas had them a little bit just because Texas can do some weird things sometimes. But that's kind of Summer's probably okay, winter's really more of the risk, both from ice storms and from extreme cold. If you see sleet and snow in the forecast, we can handle sleet and snow all day, unless it gets down to the lows below zero, then you have the electrical challenges. Interesting thing about freezing rain, that line between sleet and freezing rain is very slight, and it happens about 30 or 32 degrees. If it gets too cold, it turns to sleet, it freezes, and it doesn't stick to the power lines. If it's too warm, it stays water and doesn't freeze at all. And so that's really when we watch the forecast, the freezing rain, you hear that, or you start seeing ice accumulating on fences or on trees, that's when you can start thinking about the ice storm. And then obviously summer's challenges are pretty manageable. However, Oklahoma summer storms are all always going to create some kinds of issues. So with that, that's all I have. Happy to entertain any questions. Yes?
Good to see you again.
Yes?
So, I got a myriad of questions, but I want to ask three.
Okay.
So does humidity matter in the summertime? That's one. When, in the wintertime, when we're going to have freezing rain, is there anything you can do
to stop the problem before it becomes a problem? And third, tell me why we don't bury our power lines.
Yes. So, but first, does humidity matter? Yes, it does. Mainly because the higher the humidity, the more air conditioners run. And so it's really all tied to air conditioner load. So humidity on the power grid doesn't matter too much, but in the home it does. Second question, is there anything we can do? There is not. A lot of people have said that there are a way to heat up the power lines where you can, it may not stick to the power lines. The power lines operate at a very good temperature until they get red, like a toaster, and when that happens, they're about to burn up. So there's really no in between. So that, and third one is, why don't you certainly this is a common question, especially when we talk about weather. The first, in one word, is cost. However, I'll say a few things about underground. Number one is that about 40% of our system is underground. So the closer you get to two things, closer you get to the end-use consumer, so housing addition are mostly underground, and also the better likelihood that things don't change. So once you put it in the ground, you put the boxes out there, it becomes very, very inflexible, whereas that overhead power line right there, if a drive is coming through there, it's pretty easy to move that stuff. But to underground everything, while it would absolutely save on weather-related outages, save on maintenance costs, it would just take, the average electric bill is about $150 a month, certainly a lot more this time of year. And it would double or triple that. So you're talking about $300 or $400 a month just to have underground power lines, and most people can't afford that. And so we try to thread the needle between investing in reliability, which undergrounding can do, and then also staying affordable, going back to that balance that I said.
And AI is all the rage these days, and it's supposed to lead to tremendous increases in electricity demand. Is that anything your organization is thinking about?
We are thinking about it. The good thing about Oklahoma in general is that any trend you see, Oklahoma's kind of last to see it. It starts on the coast, both culturally and geographically. So they'll see that on the coast. They'll certainly see the AI data centers picking up. I think it's a big challenge for our electric industry. Also, you take into account a little bit of a boom for electric vehicles, although that has not really hit like some people feared it would. I don't worry about that too much in Oklahoma because I drive a Ford F-150, and if I could drive my old Honda, and I would save a lot of money doing that. But I like driving the truck, and most Oklahomans like driving trucks. But the AI data needs are a big deal, and you'll see it on the coast. And luckily, you'll probably, when I'm here, you'll probably also see companies like Amazon and Google trying to actually develop their own generation assets to go along with it, because dumping all that into the power grid it would be difficult. Yes.
looking at water as a utility analogy, when there's water demand approaches the available supply with water rationing. Is there anything analogous in electricity?
Not as straightforward. What you will see, and this happened in Winter Storm Erie, we put out a call, when things got that close to the rolling blackouts, we put out a call via social media for everyone to conserve if you could. Now, a lot of this was at 7 in the morning on and it was minus 10 degrees in Oklahoma. So turning off your lights, you can't turn off the heater at that point. But in the data, you can see a noticeable drop in load that probably limited rolling blackouts. And so not so much of the even day, odd days that like I do with my when the water company tells me to, or the city tells me to stop doing that. So just all from a volunteer point of view, but it was pretty successful, and there are plans to do a little bit more blast of that marketing the next time this comes up. And to that point, if you see OEC or OG&E come out and say, hey, we're really close to running out of power, please turn stuff off, it's real. Last time I didn't quite believe it, but then it was. So heed that message.
Patrick, you were once in a little building down on Gray Street, now you got a big glass lined headquarters. Tell us about that shop.
Yeah, as Kyle talked about, a lot of the expansion that we had through starting OEC Fiber to start broadband has really expanded us, and we made the decision back in, I think, 2009 that we were going to stay in Norman, right there, right where we were. We were landlocked there, so the only place to go was up. So as we have outgrown that space and hired people like Jamie and Kyle to come work, we have needed to expand, and so going up is the move, and we decided a lot of it has to do with the natural light and being energy efficient on our own. And so it looks great, and we're excited to move in. We started that a couple of years ago, the process of it. We have other expansions around the campus that are not as visible. We hope to be in that building by the end of the year.
How does the OEC surcharge from Uri compared to OG&E?
And so the question was, how's the OEC surcharge from Winter Storm Uri? So yeah, so what happened was, during that stretch of time, natural gas prices, generation prices went through the roof. So our costs, went up by about 100 times during those 5 days. Typically, we roll all costs directly, we're rolling right into the next bill the next month. But you couldn't do that because it literally everyone would get $1,000 electric bills. The impact to OEC was about $20 million, spread out over 60,000 accounts. So you had a choice of what to do. What OG&E and a lot of other companies did, I think OG&E did this too, is they chose, we're just going to spread that cost out for the next X amount of years. And I think OG&E's is around 5% for the next 25 years. OEC, we got a little bit luckier with our impact, and it ends up being about 3% increase for 5 years, and we're almost 4 years away through that. So pretty minimal. Now there's some inequities to that because you have people paying for it today that weren't on the lines then, and it's just the utility business is all about taking large investments and spreading cost out over a lot of people and making it manageable for our people.
Time of day charge, does that have an impact on demand?
So the question was, time of day charge, does that have an impact on demand? It does. OEC has what we call time of use rate that most of our members are on, and it increases in price during this time of year between 3 and 7. It's almost 25 cents a kilowatt hour, with the normal average is about 10. We've had that rate for about 10 years, and that's done well. However, now we are really seeing the wintertime matters more than the summertime, when it truly is about building generation. Because so much solar has come on our system, and that's all available in the summer peaks. So our costs are now shifting over to the wintertime, when it's, like I said, tough to do an hourly pricing of 7 in the morning when there's really not a lot of change people can do. You can make some changes at 5 p.m. on a summer afternoon. You can not do laundry, not run the dishwasher, not cook, grill outside if you want to face the heat. 7 a.m.